Baseball, hot dogs, apple pie, and Chevrolet. Why in the world does a middle-aged fat guy with a sore back and a crippling anxiety disorder find the need or the wherewithal to answer his phone one day from a friend and say, "Hey, I got a 1976 Chevy C-30 dually pickup truck with no keys and no title. Do you want it?" I don't really know what I was thinking when I said, absolutely. And there it is. Now you can see just how bad this side is. I'm going to try to fire up this 454. I've got a good friend that's going to buy this truck the way it is because he has one just like it and he wants some parts. So we're going to walk around this thing first and see what we've really got here. I kind of bought it sight unseen. I don't know what we're getting into, but we're about to find out. Apparently this truck, being a 1-ton C-30 chassis single cab, is kind of a cool thing. I guess they weren't very common back then. I don't even know if dualies were that common back then, but I remember seeing these when I was a kid. I think I had a couple of those Tonka toys that were modeled after a square body Chevy, and I loved them. Now this particular truck was owned by a roofing contractor here in Bradenton, Florida. I haven't seen him in quite a few years, but this belonged to his roofing business at one point. So in the back, we've got a roof that was torn off. I don't know when it was torn off. Long time ago. As old as that bucket of bull. And it sat under a tree behind a barn on a property. And this thing just got rotted. The frame is still good though, amazingly. The dually fenders are a little, they're rough. The paint sucks. You can see where the bed mounts have sunk. I don't think there's any bed floor in this thing at all. Backsliding window was busted out. Door rot. All the cab's rotten. It's gone. It's barely there. The front fenders aren't so great either. However, this truck supposedly was shut off 27 years ago as a good running truck and just basically walked away. That looks like that's wet. That's fresh. Oh, that looks like somebody may have relieved themselves. Amazingly though, the tailgate is not too bad. And I don't know how that happened. Maybe it was open or maybe it was on the ground. I don't really know. Let's see if we can. Well, oh wait, I take that back. As I was saying, the outside of the tailgate is not too bad. This side of the bed is zero better. Oh, here's our busted window. It's got a J.C. Whitney aftermarket sunroof. I'm sure that thing probably leaked at some point. It's got decent mirrors, decent running boards. The wheels aren't bad. The tires all seem to hold air. And here's the money shot. This looks like an old A-frame off an old wrecker, possibly, with an old, I don't know, 20,000 pound winch. That A-frame's been grafted onto the front of the truck. Now, I'm particularly interested in that because being short and fat gives me a place to stand and work on this thing. The grill and the headlights are in good shape. which is good. Not much left here. We've got a little ventilation going on, it looks like. A little bit of mold, a little bit of trash. What we got up here? What is that? Oh, freeze out plug, freeze plug, light bulbs, all kinds of goodies. I'm telling what's in here. This guy was a roofer, so there's lots of roofing things. We'll just throw that back. We got a tilt steering column. It's pretty desirable. Seems to work pretty good. Well, it's not too bad. Looks like dealer installed air conditioning. It's got all the factory vent locations. I've never seen dealer installed air conditioning on a square body before. This thing is just toast. It is shot. The roof is shot. The whole cab is shot, really. Problem I'm having here is I don't have keys, and this thing just likes to twirl. So I'm gonna see if I can find a cordless key in the back of my truck. And oh, here's every single truck from the 80s or 70s that I've ever seen has one of these saddle cowboy seat covers on it. They had two versions of this. They had the one with the pockets in the front, and then they had one where you could slide a rifle into the front. And there's a old school brake controller. Well, it's so disgusting I can't see what it says. It says a lot of miles. That's what it says. So let me see what I can do about getting this ignition cylinder to turn. Well, my persistence has paid off. I found a whole set of keys. Maybe if I turn the camera over. How about that? Huh. If you turn the camera over, where the lens is on the top of the camera instead of the bottom, you can actually see things. Pretty cool. All right, time to take the horn contact ring out. 3 Phillips screws. Riveting. Taking these screws out is riveting. I know. Not really. Okay, so now we got the big nut in the middle, and I'll show you guys how I take steering wheels off. Wow, I even brought the correct socket the first try. Of course, I didn't bring an extension, but we'll try to live without it. Here we go. Turned right off. You got this big nut here that goes on this main shaft, and what you do is you thread it back on about, I don't know, just until the shaft is flush with the nut. It'll look like that. I take the hammer, if I can find it, and I grab the steering wheel at the top, pull real hard on it, and smack that nut at the same time. And there we go. Hopefully I didn't destroy anything. There's the steering wheel. Nobody needs a steering wheel puller. That's for freshmen, newbies. Okay. I'm going to take this other ring off that you're supposed to depress and use a snap ring remover tool, I believe. We're not going to do that either. We're just going to push. Put a little booty into it. Don't lose these tiny screws, man. That's a hassle. Oof. It'll mess up your day big time. There we go. This ring comes off. It leaves you this great big duber. If I can find my screwdriver, well, maybe this won't work. So I think what I'll do is get a smaller screwdriver, put a little booty against that plate, put some pressure on it, pop that clip out, hope it doesn't go flying across the parking lot. Here's a little skinnier screwdriver. I'm going to try to manipulate this sucker down in there. I got one side work free. There it goes. You can tell it's coming loose because of all the cracking and snapping. Okay, what we're doing here is trying to get the little silver ring. I've got it loose on one side, I got to get it loose on the other side. This is under a lot of spring pressure right here, and one of the advantages of being overweight is you can kind of overcome spring pressure in some circumstances. This might be one of them. So I'm going to try to finish getting that ring off and not lose it. Okay, my persistence has paid off once again. This ring slides over and down into the groove on that shaft that holds this plate on. So I'm going to very carefully put that somewhere where I won't lose it, hopefully. And we'll grab this plate, put that up there beside it. And we've got a horn contact switch duber here. That goes up there. And we've got screws holding in the turn signal lever. I think the tilt lever unscrews. I don't have to even deal with that, I don't think. So we'll take this turn signal lever out, take the screws out of the turn signal switch, and that should give us access to the lock cylinder. So let me work on that. This is the boring stuff. Okay, there's a screw in this hole, screw for the blinker lever, screw up there, and then you turn the turn signal to the left turn signal and you'll see another hole back in there. And then in here, there is this little hazard light switch that screws into the end. You have to take that out. Once you get those 4 screws out and the hazard light activator button, you can lift this turn signal switch over like that, and that gives you access to the pin slot for the lock cylinder. Okay, after an epic battle, this thing slides into the steering column like this, and then this gray little pin is simply just a push up, push down thing. So when it's in the column like this, you'll push that pin in and pry, because this one doesn't have the little wings on the outside of it anymore, and you can just kind of pop it out of there with a screwdriver. That leaves you with, there's a flat right there where my fingertip is, if you can see that. And I'm going to take these needle nose pliers, stick them in the hole, grab that flat, and turn it. Now, that's start. That's the spring-loaded position on the ignition switch down on the column. That should be on, off, and then all the way back is accessory, but I'm not trusting that. So that's the spring-loaded start part. So I'm going to leave it in the on position. Now we can shift it. Now I can roll it into the shop. I need to pop that pin back in there too. That's not too cool. I'm going to take care of that quick. I think it'll be quick. Hopefully I don't break it. Well, it's already a little bit better. I'm gonna have to oil that up a tad and tap on it some more. So now I can do something with this thing. I'm not gonna put all this right together right away, I don't think, because I don't even know if this truck's gonna start. By the way, this hood's trashed, so I'm not doing any damage here. Goodness. That's a little better. And here's the 454. And there's my aviators. I'm gonna break them or lose them as sure as the world. Here's our dealer installed air conditioning compressor. It's got some kind of aftermarket valve covers on it. This has hydro boost brakes. What is this? Oh, that's just a jack. Some old computer hold HEI snap locker duber. And that looks like an old pair of underwear tied up around the jack retainer. I think I'll just leave that alone. Man, this thing stinks under the hood. Oh, this is great. Oh, there's a battery terminal down in the intake. Looks like a formerly chrome air cleaner cover here. Goodness, that thing was longer than a Lifetime movie. Oh. Okay, on this Edelbrock carburetor, all the screws in the top of the body of the carburetor are flathead screws, and I believe, if I remember correctly, I do a lot of reading, I believe before 2002 they had flathead screws holding the carburetor together. I think after 2002 they went to like a Torx, like a T15. I'll have to verify that, but if somebody knows how to correctly date an Edelbrock carburetor, I would love to see that in the comments. There's also a smorgasbord of fluids down here. Brake fluid. Looks like we got some Castrol GTX. This dates the truck too. I recognize that bottle style from when I worked at the auto parts store in 1993 or so. That's exactly what I used to have to stock on the shelves. These bottles probably came from a store I worked at here in Bradenton. In fact, all the wiring looks pretty decent. There, that popped off that time. Oops. That appears to be bone dry. I think I'll check the fluids while I'm at this thing here. Let's see. Yep, that's like, It's got zero viscosity, that's for sure. Oh, the transmission fluid looks brand new. Doesn't even stink. Interesting. Big belly in the way. See if I can twist my knee with this again. Oh, that's freed up. Oh, there's a mouse carcass. Poor guy. Well, maybe not. Yeah, the fuel lines are toast. I think I'm gonna fling a battery in this thing and pour some pre-mixed gas down the pie hole and see what happens. Let me go get that battery out of the crock pot. Got the replacement key for the C-30 pickup here. Gonna make sure the switch is turned off before I put the battery in. Oh, gotta put it in park first. Try that. Yeah, it likes that much better. All right, let's see what happens now. There's absolutely zero battery box on this truck. So I'm going to use one of these Happy Knees, they call them. At least in Canada, they call them that. Why I know that, I don't know. Like I said, I read a lot. Let's see what happens when we hook it up. See just what kind of fireworks we get. There we go. Uh-oh. Which side was that? Oh, that's negative. That's good. Let the negative touch against the frame. That clicks right down on there. And here's our positive. Let's see what happens. I don't hear any hissing. I don't see any smoke. Let me go see if we got power. Maybe we're not on anything. Well, how about that? We've barely got some power. We've got one marker light working, 0 headlights. So I think on the entire truck, with the headlights on, we've got one light working. Sometimes you can do this. But I don't think that accomplished anything. Well, I'll hit the key, see what happens. All right, it's showtime. Well, I can't believe it. I couldn't find my premixed gas. We're gonna go straight to the carb cleaner, brake cleaner. Actually, I like brake cleaner a bit better. Oh, these straws make me nuts. Oops. Right at the camera. Beautiful. And it's empty. See if we can't take this nozzle. Well, that one's broke. We're gonna forget the idea of the brake cleaner and go for the carb cleaner anyway. Well, that thing will probably roll half a mile. Yep. Oh, no, it hit a piece of trash. We're good. Contact. I can't believe this thing's gonna run. You can't beat a Chevy, I'll tell you that. I smell like burning hair. Quite possibly from a mouse carcass, I suppose. There, it'll run for a couple of seconds now. And hopefully the whole rig won't burn down. Shoot, this thing's gonna run. I'm gonna go get a gas tank, and I'm gonna hook up the gas tank and run this sucker. Okay, so now we got it to bark off, and it seems like it's gonna run pretty good. What I'm gonna do next is delete this fuel filter and this fuel line, because I know for sure whatever's in this tank is the same age as everything else. Same age as that oil and the brake fluid that was over there. And I don't want to take the chance. I'm not even sure if this fuel pump's going to work, but I got myself a little gallon gas tank, so we're going to pump some fresh fuel through this pump, replace this line, probably try to delete this vine here that's growing through there, and see if we can't get this thing to run, idle, do something productive. Well, I'm already worn out with the needle nose pliers job in the cab there, turning the switch on. So I'm trying to use my phone because of this wind today. Coming out of the firewall here, this should be the engine wiring harness right here underneath this loom, and it goes across and down to the engine. And on GMs, older GMs, the trigger wire for the starter solenoid was purple, which appears to be this one, and the ignition side of the coil was yellow, and that sends the power back from the solenoid to the ignition switch or something like that, or it comes out of the ignition switch to supply the AGI. But both of those wires ultimately go, these two, get my fat fingers back behind them, these two right here go to the starter solenoid. These two right here. So instead of me trying to jack this behemoth up with my size and the condition of this thing and the wind blowing rust in my face, I'm going to put in a switch right in here so I can kind of remotely do this, getting this engine running without going back and forth into the cab and etc., etc. Make my life simpler. This won't hurt anything. This truck is doomed anyway, so the wiring harness is pretty much going bye-bye. The drivetrain is what's going to be savable in here, I hope. Okay, did a little engineering here. I got our purple wire that goes to the starter solenoid, and I found some old air conditioning fan motor wire from my previous life as an HVAC tech. And I had a single pole contactor which goes on an air conditioner. And what the beauty is about these is this side here has a momentary switch where it disconnects. On an air conditioner, it would be 120 volts on one side, 120 on the other. This style of contactor has only one that has the coil to disconnect the power, and this would stay constant. So if you had a 12 volt item you wanted to run straight through constantly, you could put it there, like the ignition or whatever, fuel pump. And on this side, you can use it for the starter. Hopefully I've done this wiring correctly. So I've got it going to the contactor, and this is a manual use. You can push it on an air conditioner. It uses the sides with a 24 volt transformer to energize it. Sorry about all this miserable wind here today. Jeez. So I spliced 3 more wires together. I even decided to put a new battery terminal on, which is actually a used one off of my minivan that I cruise around in. So I'm going to go over here and push this button on this contactor, and if my calculations are correct, the starter is either going to engage, or something's going to pop or catch on fire, or possibly both. So let's see what happens. There it goes. So I got myself a remote starter switch. Didn't seem to like that too much. I've also got some brand new hose connected to the fuel pump. And now that I figured out where my hose at, So now I can put my thumb over this and activate this trigger, possibly with the same hand. I can feel it pulsating, so I think that fuel pump works. So I think what I'll do is prime this hose with that fuel, and then put this into a gas can because I can't find my boat tank. Let's see if we can't get this thing to run and idle. Possibly. I'm kind of hopeless that that's going to happen. I think there's some crap in this carburetor. But I'm not going to be pessimistic. We're going to be hopeful. We're going to choose happy. Okay, I primed the True Fuel into that hose quite a bit. Then I decided just to stick the hose down in the True Fuel and see what happens now. So let's do this. Uh-oh. Well, we've hit another fork in the road here on this French dually pickup, and the negative battery cable is no good. NFG, as I like to say. So, in my former life as an AC guy, I had a bunch of leftover wire and some terminals and stuff, so I'm going to make a battery cable. This is how you cut your finger off. I hope this will work. These are not the right wire strippers for this purpose, but tonight they're going to have to be. Look at that, they're actually going to work. Jeez Louise. I got a friend that says that all the time and he denies it. It's always better to spend 30 minutes making a battery cable instead of just going around the corner to the parts store and buying one for $15. But we're trying to stay on a budget and use up all of our extra resources and develop our arthritis a bit further at the same time. Because that's how we roll here. My goodness. One of the most important things about trying to start a car is the ground. The electrical system is really important. And when you get an old rig like this that's been sitting around forever, you need to check the fuse block. And like I mentioned in other videos, the insides of these battery cables, they rot from the inside out. I took some of my HVAC wire, which was way too big for my terminal, and spent way too much time kind of folding these over to get my terminal to fit, but we'll have a good ground. What happens to the fuse block is all the fuses corrode from humidity, especially here in Florida. Actually, it happens everywhere. If you look underneath there and you've got electrical gremlins with a revival car, you can pop all those fuses out one at a time. Spray some electrical contact cleaner in there and hit it with a toothbrush, and put some dielectric grease on new fuses and put them back in. A lot of times that'll solve a lot of your electrical gremlins. Ask me how I know. So that was our ground. Little skinny cable, pathetic connection. We're gonna make a way better one. Okay, I had to gather some of my tools and stuff together because I never can find anything. Got the battery back in the truck now, and I took that new number 4 or number 2 or whatever wire it is for air conditioning. Made myself a new battery cable. See, I did a really nice job there. Probably ought to cut those extra strands off. I still have the air conditioning contactor hacked into the purple wire that goes to the starter solenoid. And now look what it does with a good ground. Cranks over like a champion. And we're running out of light here. So here's the final thing here. We got the boat tank on top of the pile of crap in the back. We primed it with that bulb. I mean, hey, we're Florida boys, so we're going to use the bulb when we can. I did see that the mechanical pump was working, so we've got fuel in here now. Yes. I didn't have any couplers, so I had to use fuel filters to tie lines together. And I had to do it again down there. Went through the mechanical pump and up to here. So I'm going to go in and turn the ignition on and whale on the contactor. All right. And by the way, lots of guys on YouTube like this pre-mixed fuel, and so do I, because it's got oil in it. So when these engines have been sitting around for a long time, at least they get a little bit of something. And since this is a 454, I kind of want to take a little better care of it because I heard it ran good. Smells like water in the gas. Probably from that mechanical fuel pump that had that canister on it. That's what I would suspect. But we'll see if we can work through that. And fuel filters are filling up good. We've got ourselves a dirty carburetor, I think. Let it try to idle on some nice fresh gas and see how it goes before I go giving it the zets, they call it. All right, we got her running. Everything's kind of doing all right so far. Even got some accelerator pump. Who would have in a million years thought this thing would run? All right, we got a little light on the subject now, and my assistant is putting in some coolant, aka water. I think that's the 3rd gallon so far, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay, so we're gonna check the brake fluid out. Let's see what we got in here. Holy moly. Jeez Louise. I got a good friend that says jeez Louise all the time and he denies it. Oh, I can't believe it. Now, the bigger reservoir should be the fronts here, and the smaller one should be the rear. What I'm gonna do, and it is bone dry in there, I'm gonna take some of this 27-year-old brake fluid and dump it in there and watch it all squirt out on the ground when I push the brake pedal eventually. Oh, just enough. So we'll jam this back together and see if we can get some gears rolling in this thing. Contact. I got it back onto the shaft enough to turn it and see if the power steering works. Got power steering. We're going to just disconnect that horn. We're going to stick it down into the washer reservoir for safety. Okay, so our brakes are locked up. The truck actually runs pretty good, and I think that's largely because of the pre-ethanol gas. I think when it sits for years and years and years, it doesn't cause nearly the problems that new stuff does. So I think that's what gave us a break. The idle started to pick up on its own, so I'm sure it's got some trash in it somewhere. And who knows, it may not start tomorrow, but it ran good tonight. It goes into reverse, goes into drive. The brakes are probably locked up, but I'm not gonna pursue that any further until I get the tires pumped up. I may just wail on it and see if it'll start to move on its own. So we're gonna pack up tonight and I'll get on this more tomorrow. Well, here we are like on day 4 of the Truly Dooley. And we're trying to get it moving. We jacked up the front and the wheels spin freely, so I know the brakes aren't locked up in the front. So it might be the back brakes are locked up. We're gonna air up the tires and see if I can get this thing to move. Everybody over here likes to yell a lot. So I'm gonna do that now. I got Jaime helping me out with this today. It's about 1,000,000 degrees in Florida as usual. So we're gonna pump these up and see if we can't get some action out of here. All right, let's go through the starting procedure here. By the way, got my foot stuck down in this hole about 10 minutes ago and thought I had to call a rescue squad for a second. So here's our key. We'll go down in there and turn ignition on. The tachometer works. Not accurate, but it works. Contact. How about that? I'm gonna see if I can get it to move. Okay, we're in the process here of getting these back wheels off to smack on that drum some and try to free up that brake, because I know that's what the problem's going to be. Everything else seems to roll okay, so I'm going to have to cancel my plans of driving this to the dump, but I am going to drive it up and down the road and then spin it around so we can get all the trash out of here. I got a friend that wants to buy it, so I'm going to try to break the squeeze here. Okay, there's been a slight change of plans here, change of course, whatever you're going to call it. When we pulled the first wheel off, the wheel was holding the bedside on. There's just nothing left. So I'm going to do a little surgical procedure here and just cut the fender off in front of this tire because it's already disconnected all the way down. And I guess we'll have some kind of a flatbed when I'm done with that, but I'm just going to zip it off right there, straight down. All right, we got this fender side snipped off here. There is basically zero bed floor left in this truck. There's the old, I don't know if this was storage or if it was an actual tear-off. It looks like it was a tear-off of a roof. Probably done at least 27 years ago. The tailgate's destroyed. I think I covered that earlier. The body on this truck is just gone. But the frame is still pretty solid. And the engine runs good. So this was a drivetrain only salvation here. Salvage effort. Salvation might be a little strong. And I went a little old school. I'm going to try to just pull this wheel with my, well, don't yell at me, but I have a Ram 1500 as a daily. And I got a chain, and I'm just going to basically snatch it with the Ram. First I got to unlock our ignition cylinder here. Put it in, let's see, reverse. That's close enough to neutral. Let's see if I can rip the whole truck in half. I know I'm blasting you right into the sun, but I think all that's happening is I'm dragging the truck. It appears to be the situation. Let's see what else I can do with it. Maybe what I'll do is I'll try to pull it the other way. Move the chain on the bottom. Maybe that'll give me a more of a law of physics, some law of physics to pull it that way. And that'll keep, yeah, that might work better. Let's go see what happens. And all that successfully appeared to do, actually it may have moved just a hair. I'm going to give this a couple more shots and see what happens here. Never give up, guys. Okay guys, I just had to pull the plug on the 76 C-30 dually. There was just no way I could get that brake drum off in the back without breaking out cut-off wheels and cutting the adjuster in half or torches or something. It looks like something must have dripped on it that was very caustic or caused oxidation and just welded the thing together. It is locked. I mean, it is locked tight. So I decided to pull the plug so I didn't make such a mess of the truck. The thing was falling apart anyway. Every time we started yanking on things and beating things with hammers, more stuff was falling out of the bed and body parts were falling apart. And I couldn't realistically drive it down the road anyway. I think the body would have just blown right off of the chassis, it seemed like. It runs, it's got a great drivetrain. I've got a good friend that wants some of the parts off of it. I understand some of the parts on it might be pretty valuable, like the tilt steering column and some of the trim and things like that. There's a guy a couple doors down from my shop that's an expert on these things, and he came down and told me all about it. If you want to comment, give me some information about this stuff, tell me what I'm doing wrong, whatever. Subscribe to my channel. I'm looking forward to getting a lot more things going, and see if I can get some other stuff running. I got some really cool stuff in my storage lot, so like, subscribe, smash the notification bell, I think they say. I'm not very hip. I don't even know if that's a thing anymore. Do you still smash the notification button or bell, or is there something else you do with it now? I don't know. So we got a good 454 engine, a good turbo 400 transmission, all kinds of good extras and knickknacks and parts and visors and things like that that are probably usable, glass. So stick with me. We'll do some more fun stuff. I've got some cool projects coming up and some stuff in the pipe, and but we're going to call this a win. We're We're going to call this a runner and probably a driver if I would have broke out cutoff wheels and fixed the brakes, and there just wasn't anything above it to make it justified to do that. I appreciate you guys watching. I'll see you next time.
See you next time.
All right.
Tune in again.
Thanks for watching.
Yep.